Hi, welcome to BA Brew. I'm Jonathan.
And I'm Lisa.
And I'm Mike.
And today we're going to talk about the subject of you couldn't make it up. And to give you a flavour of the type of discussion we're going to have today, I thought I'd start off with a story. And this is a story of my now wife buying me a holiday. She bought me a holiday to the Rhine in Flames, so Rhine and Flammen, which is my very poor attempt at pronouncing the event that was going to. It's a massive fireworks display on the edge of the Rhine in Germany. Anyway, it was a coach trip that she'd purchased. I remember being excited about going on this holiday and going to get onto the coach. And I got onto the coach and was told that unfortunately there wasn't enough seats for the guests on the coach. And I had to travel down from the Midlands, which is in the middle of England, down to Dover, or sitting on the aisle floor.
I thought you were going to say the toilet.
Toilet was taken.
No, I didn't have a bad stomach that day, Mike. No, not.
That is unbelievable, isn't it?
And what made it even more unbelievable was that when I complained that, hang on a minute, we bought a ticket for this holiday and why isn't there a seat? It was met with kind of, oh, this is just normal. No, this is fine. You'll get a seat when we get to Dover. And I was kind of like, what happens if there's an accident?
Well, that would be good if you're in the toilet, wouldn't it?
Well, it will.
We know where Matt would have been.
So that's my opening story. Thank you for lowering the tone there, Mike. On multiple occasions.
So, but with this story, so when you got to the other side, so did you go by ferry then? And
I think we got the ferry. Yeah, I think it was ferry, and there was a different coach that picked us up.
Right.
And there was one less person on that coach, and therefore I had a seat.
And on the way back, did you have the same problem with the coach, or was it somebody else's problem?
I didn't have to sit on the toilet on the way back, no.
So were you the only person who didn't have a seat, Jonathan?
Yes.
That's really
I was the only person, and it was my gift. It was my birthday gift. My wife was just trying to give me this special gift.
Oh, I bet she felt terrible.
And then I spent quite a bit of time writing to this company to complain about the way we'd been treated. There's other things that went wrong on that holiday, and they were just like, no, there's no reason for complaint. It's all fine. It's like, wow, just couldn't. Let's just say I wouldn't be using that travel company again.
No, you couldn't make that up.
No,
way.
You couldn't make it up. So that's what today's pod's about. And it's not just about Mike taking the mick out of me. So let me go over to Mike. Have you you couldn't make that up?
I might have. I'm not sure I can beat that though, Jonathan, because just that image of you sitting in the aisle on the coach.
You didn't even give me a pillow or a cushion, Mike.
Nothing. I was just.
It's like the naughty step, isn't it? You've done something wrong.
I think he's not told us the whole story there. I think there was some misbehaving going on that coach. He was separated from his friends or something. But we'll have to ask him about that afterwards. As I say, I don't think I can compete with that. I think an example that occurs to me from a previous place of work many years ago, or it might not have been many years ago. Who could tell? Was I was asked by a manager to do some prep work to try and speed up, to try and do away with interviewing people for doing a bit of analysis work. And what he wanted me to do was write the standard list of questions that I would ask at every interview, so that I could put that into a Word document and send it out to people beforehand. So they could, instead of having an interview, they would just fill in the form, send that back. We would collate the answers and then build the system for them. Needless to say, I was tempted to give him the how, why, where, when, and who. Those were the questions, but I thought that's probably not a good thing to do. Needless to say, he didn't really understand analysis, and sometime later, I left. So I got a job elsewhere. But it did seem a bit of an odd question to ask an analyst to write the list of standard questions. It wasn't as if we were going in and doing the same thing all the time. So,
wow,
it's very strange, isn't it? Very strange.
It was a very
manager
clinical approach to doing analysis. Here is the questions that I'm going to ask every time. So Strange.
Makes no
Nowhere near
sense.
as much fun as the coach, I'm afraid. Sorry.
Not as much fun as the coach, but I'm just perplexed. How did that person become the manager of a business analyst if they didn't understand a single kind of thing about analysis?
I've no idea. I've no idea. I mean, they've been working in IT for quite a few years, so they weren't actually an analysis manager. So I was the senior analyst in the organisation. But yes, it was a very different perspective. It was just a clinical approach to what are the questions, assuming you follow a formula, and then you could get the answer that you needed.
Wow. Did they get upset with you when you didn't give them the pre-prescribed list?
Well, I think I explained that I didn't have a standard set of questions other than tell me what you do or show me what you do, and then sort of working through and then asking questions on the basis of that. So I think I did manage to explain to them that it wasn't as straightforward as here is the list of questions I ask. But we didn't always see eye to eye about everything. But I think he understood that and realised that I wasn't going to get us anywhere.
Yeah, very odd. Very odd.
Extremely.
Lisa.
Well, I can't better that, to be honest, but I don't know. The sort of negative example I've got was it wasn't from work, it was as a customer. So I'd been with this broadband provider for a few years, actually. I'm going back quite a while now. And this particular company was very popular back then. And I decided for whatever reason, I can't remember why, I was going to leave them. So I'd waited till my last month, paid my last, I think it was £15 a month back then. It was, quite cheap back then. And then I cancelled the direct debit. And the next thing I know, I was getting letters from bailiffs, some kind of debt collection agency, completely out of the blue, mortified. I was like, oh my goodness, what, I paid it. I'm sure I paid it. And I diligently waited until the end of my contract as well. That's the bit I couldn't get my head around. So I contacted the company. I couldn't get through by phone. So in the end, I called the number on this debt collection agency letter. I was like, look, I've paid it. I've paid it, and you've cancelled your direct debit. I said, yeah, but because I've paid you the last payment, it's done. And this woman was, in the end, she was screaming down the phone at me for £15. And I was like, but I've paid it. So I was like shouting back at, it was so ridiculous. I couldn't help getting angry. Anyway, then I came off the phone and I thought, I couldn't believe, how ridiculous it was. And then I ended up emailing the company, the broadband provider, and it was sorted out straight away. It was just the most horrendous experience. I'm very, very proud, I would be very ashamed if I'd not been able to pay something. It would have been quite a difficult thing for me. But the fact that I paid it and then, got those bizarre consequences, it was really, really odd. So that was probably my worst one.
Wow, and quite stressful because someone's shouting at you, and there's a debt, and they're threatening to turn up and remove items from your house to repay the debt.
£15.
What a good thing you could have done in that call. You could have said that this call is being recorded for training purposes, and then you'd see how they might behave after that point. Might turn things around a little bit. I find getting calls from broadband or telecoms providers a little bit interesting. Where I get a call and say, we're ringing up to save you money on your account. We've been reviewing your account. I'd like to take you through security. And I thought, hang on a minute, they're ringing me. I don't know who they are. I said, well, no, actually, I'd like to take you through security because you've rung me. So I say, I'll take you through security. I'd like to ask you something about my account. And they said, yeah, that's fine. We'll do that once we've taken you through security. And they didn't quite understand what the problem was there. I thought, that's an odd one. They ring up and say you shouldn't give out details to people you don't know on the phone. But then the marketing department will ring me and say, I want to take you through security. Tell me your codes from your password or whatever.
Yeah, I've had that with companies ringing me as well, Mike. And the person I spoke to seemed to understand that I was in the position where I wasn't wanting to give out details, and they did answer some of my questions. So they took a bit more of a reasonable view. I'm going to share a positive story now about customer experience then. So I went out with my wife for lunch, and I was in a restaurant ordering some items, and there was a woman stood behind the bar trying to take my order, and she stood trying to input into the electronic point of sale system, the till system, what my order was. Anyway, she's staring at this screen and pressing buttons and doesn't know what she's doing at all. And so she eventually asked someone else for help, but it takes probably about 10 to 15 minutes to place my order. The whole time I'm stood at the bar, my wife sat on the table on her own. Anyway, I placed the order, and I don't complain, and I'm just myself. Anyway, go back, sit down, and think that's a bit odd, but anyway, don't think anything too much of it. And then this man comes up to me and he says, "Thank you. My mum's just told me you've been incredibly patient with her while she tried to take your order." And I was like, "Oh, it's fine. Everyone needs to learn the new systems." And he's like, "No, my mum's given me a direct instruction that I have to look after you because of how kind you've been and how patient you've been." And anyway, so the food order comes, and he says, "All right, do you want any additional sides?" And we're like, no, we're fine. And he's like, no, he's insistent that we have additional sides. And then he was insistent that I try both it was a Red Stripe, it was a Jamaican restaurant. So he was insistent I have a beer. And then because I'd hinted that I was looking forward to my Red Stripe, he insisted that I try the local house lager as well. So I end up getting, it's the owner of the restaurant giving me like a VIP service, and my wife, she was having quite a stressful time at work, which was one of the reasons I took her out for lunch. And we had this great customer experience off the back of me not getting angry with the woman that was trying to process my order. And still to this day, it's one of my favorite restaurants to go to. Because I've had such a great customer experience there, and I know the owner a little bit now, because he went out of his way to look after me. Very different to sitting in the aisle of the.
That's fabulous. It's like karma, isn't it? Karma coming back for the coach trip.
I don't know. Complaining on the coach trip didn't seem to help me, so maybe I've learned my lesson.
That's a really nice customer experience, but it does make you wonder how bad the staff experience is normally at that restaurant. That if you're just being patient, that's considered really amazing customer behaviour. And you think that's a sorry state of affairs, isn't it?
Yeah.
It must be hard being on the receiving end of it sometimes. It must be.
Yeah, but I don't know, if you're trying to learn something new and you've got a customer that's getting irate with you, it's not really helping. She was clearly didn't know how to process the order. Have either of you got a wow kind of customer experience that you've had where you're just like, you couldn't make that up, that was someone went above and beyond? Or
actually, yeah. So I've just come back off holiday last Sunday. We went on a cruise for the first time in years. Last time we went was the year before COVID. Really excited about it. Really looking forward to it. And but with one of the well-known providers of cruises just round the Med, it was wonderful. But actually, when we got there, when we sort of checking in with the passports at the terminal, they said, "Oh, there's been a bit of an issue with your room." I said, "What do you mean?" I'm panicking at this point because I'm thinking there's only a set amount of rooms, obviously, on the ship. I've waited a long time for this holiday. What's going to happen? Anyway, the upshot of it was that we'd sort of paid for an inside cabin because it's a lot more. There's a much bigger premium. I don't know if you've been on a cruise before. There's a much bigger premium to have a balcony. It's quite a substantial amount of money. And actually what we ended up with was not one balcony room, but 2 balcony rooms that were interconnecting. So, that would have accommodated 6 people and there were 3 of us. And It was just amazing. And I honestly don't know why it happened to us. I'm not sure. But it was fantastic. So that was probably the best story, customer service wise. We were just really, really lucky to have got that.
Wow.
Yeah, really good.
So that just the upgrade to 1 balcony as a room would have been a huge benefit, but you had 2.
Absolutely. Yeah, 2. So we could, we could literally walk. So there was a partition between the rooms, and all they did was they just pulled that back, so we could just walk around. It was just fantastic.
Did you pull up in a limousine? Were you wearing sunglasses? And did they think you were a celebrity, Lisa?
No, come on, no. No, I don't know. I honestly don't know why. Don't know why it happened, but I was panicking a little bit at first, thinking, well, because my daughter's only 10, I was thinking, well, she can't sleep in a different room to us, I was like, oh God, there's only so many rooms on the ship, But it was brilliant. Ended up being a fantastic experience, really, really good, and so unexpected as well.
Wow.
So, yeah, that was great.
Mm.
It's not all bad.
No, that's good. I was thinking, as you were saying, I was thinking through some sort of other things that are a little bit unexpected that are not holiday or work related. And a thing I find quite amusing is signs that just seem completely inappropriate or unnecessary. So I remember one time walking away from work and came up to this pedestrian crossing, and they were doing roadworks on the street, and the road was completely closed, and there was 6-foot high fences just blocking off this crossing. And by the side of the crossing, there was a sign that said "crossing not in use." And I thought, there's no way you can go across this crossing. So that sign just seems a little bit redundant, just a little bit.
Not really very useful at all. Right, I'm going to share a work kind of example now. Many years ago, I was drafted in onto a project that had been running for about 2 years, I think, by the time I'd arrived, and I was asked to be someone that would understand the impact of this project on the respective divisions of this financial services organization. So I was asked to be an architect that would understand the impact of an ongoing project on the divisions of this financial services organization, but it was already in flight. And so what I found out was they basically had spent a lot of money over a number of years, and they didn't know the scope of the project. And when I say a lot of money, this project was, it had a budget of over £500 million, and they tried to hold team meetings. They had to hire kind of like concert venues, and there were multiple theatre venues that would be connected via video conference link throughout the world. And so it was very, very bright people, lots of them getting paid a lot of money, and I'm brought in to understand the scope of the project when it's about 2 years in flight. And finding out what the scope was really quite challenging as well, because there was no agreement on it. And I was just flabbergasted. One of the most, I don't know, strange project experiences I've ever come across. And for me, that's you couldn't make it up. There's just an ongoing project that doesn't know its scope. It's just got lots of people doing stuff. It was just wow. And well, it was a great learning experience. Eventually that program did fail. It didn't achieve its outcomes. But it just you couldn't make it up. Have either of you seen anything like that, or a nonsensical thing at work that you've come across?
I doing business analysis, you often find odd things that are occurring. I remember one place I worked, I went along to this department, and there was this person had got this job of reviewing the content of these files because they needed to retain the important messages or important letters and whatever on the files needed to be retained, but the ephemeral things, the odd memos, could be destroyed. And this person would get these files out. They'd be quite thick files. This is back in the old days when we had lots and lots of paper. And what they did, they had to get each sheet and determine whether they needed to keep it or not. And they got a rubber stamp. And for the pages that they said they determined weren't necessary to be kept, they put this rubber stamp, and it said "permission to destroy" on it. And they took that sheet and then dropped it into a shredder. And they went back to the folder and went to the next one. Oh no, we'll keep that one. No, oh, we can destroy this one. Permission to destroy, and dropped it into the shredder. And just thinking, this is really odd. And I thought, well, why on earth is this person doing that? Because as soon as they've stamped it, they destroy the evidence that they've stamped it. Like, I have to say that the rubber stamp is quite a nice thing to have, and who wouldn't want to use a rubber stamp? It turned out it used to be two people's jobs. So one person used to review the folder and determine which things to destroy, and they'd stamp "permission to destroy." And when they finished all of that, they'd take the pile of things with permission to destroy to a clerical assistant who would then shred them. And the story I tell is that it wasn't a business analyst that merged these jobs before. It was another role. I'm not going to mention the role because I don't want to upset. I spend enough time upsetting project managers and whatever, so I'm not going to mention the role. It wasn't a project manager, just in case the project manager
very
definitely wasn't a project manager. It was another role. But they merged the job together, but they didn't change the process. So this person was still merrily stamping the page. And I think they were a little aggrieved that we'd pulled them up on this and said, well, you don't need to stamp that. So we saved a little bit of money on ink and on the rubber stamp, and completely destroyed that person's day, because all they did was look at things and shred them. So, but you couldn't make that
You
up.
couldn't make that up. No way.
But there's quite a, it's quite a nice thing to stamp a piece of paper.
Satisfying, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite
It made a satisfying sort of ka-chunk sound as well. It's one of those stamps that the ink pad was on it, so it rolled round.
Yes, yeah, they were really good. Yeah,
Good old
the old date stamps. Yeah.
You took away from them.
I know. I feel mean.
Oh dear. Right, Lisa, have you got any last? I couldn't make it.
I don't think I can beat those, to be honest. I'll think back. I can't at the moment.
I've got one more. It was a program manager, a different program. I had this program manager that would set we called it a daily stand-up. And each morning the team would gather for the daily stand-up. And the daily stand-up was not a daily stand-up. It was a counselling session for the program manager to tell us what they'd been involved with, what their thoughts were of the sponsor. I knew all about their family and home life, and whether or not their pets were well or at the vets or any other kind of troubles. But very little focus on what the actual work was. And it took an hour each day, and the whole team would stop and they would have to listen. And it was just like, wow, this is not a daily stand-up. And the program manager in question wasn't in listening mode. They wouldn't have wanted to learn, well, what is a daily stand-up? They just called it a daily stand-up and basically wasted everyone's time every single day of that particular program. And I was very pleased not to be on that program anymore when that eventually did happen.
It's really frustrating, isn't it? Yeah, really frustrating.
Frustrating, yeah. Yeah. Mike, any last stories that you wanted to throw in?
A really quick one. Got a key safe at this one organization went to. There was a key safe or a key cabinet with keys to all of the rooms in the building, all nicely secured, locked away, but the key was on a hook underneath the cabinet. Great.
That's brilliant.
But you can imagine a burglar going and thinking, no, it can't be that one.
Couldn't be that one, surely.
Can't possibly be that one.
That's like a mirage. They wouldn't be silly enough to put the key to the key safe underneath the key safe. But quite good process efficiency. You wouldn't lose the key to the key safe. You know where it is.
No.
Yeah, interesting. Anyway, I just want to thank Lisa and Mike for joining for this particular BA Brew. If any of you have got stories that you'd like to share with us in terms of you couldn't make it up, please do send them through to us, and maybe we'll share them on a future BA Brew. If any of you've got any ideas for other BA Brews that we might do in the future, please also do share them with us. Our email address is babrew@assistkd.com. Thank you very much.